Welcome once again to ISD.
Thank you.
Riding on the wave of the full moon, super full moon this time. First one of this summer. Next two coming up, August and September. Super moon just means that the moon's a lot closer to the Earth, so we're going to get the picture a lot clearer. Or be a lot more intense, but this full moon is a good one. Compared to the ones we've been having lately, they've been kind of rough, of challenging your awareness and challenging your consciousness in the state that we live in on the physical world. And if I may, I'd like to just look at that for a moment. Attention, because I heard it being discussed out here. And attention can be a complex concept to look at. Because what is attention? It's complex. Where is it? It's wherever you put it. But where you put it is an afterthought, because it was already there before you put it someplace. And so that's the thing that we are struggling or grappling with. To become aware that we're already in something that we just slept through and missed it completely. And even in hindsight, we're still missing it because we're still asleep. We don't realize it. And that's just a part of the consequence of being in the body physical. And it's okay because that's how we learn it. This full moon, Capricorn moon is all about responsibility, social, security, finances. All these things are important. Who's going to take the weight? Cancer is where the sun is in the opposite degree, 21 degrees. Cancer is all about your personal feelings. This is all about me. What is it that I like? What is it that I want? How do I feel? This is how our biases get built up. I don't like this, I don't like that. What is that about? When we start walking that path, we start going through dumbing down our soul nature, which is connected to the spirit. If you can't see in your soul, what do you think your spirit's picking up? It still has all the information, but now you're not getting it because you have certain things that you have preference for. And when you give that importance, that's the first thing that your attention is going to go to. Full moon symbol, let's take a look at it. It's a relay race. What's the thing that comes to your mind in a relay race? Because a relay race isn't about competing against another person. It's a team event. And if you really look at it, you're not even competing against another team. Your team is passing the baton from one point to another. And this is like the evolution of the earth, the evolution of mankind, the evolution of us. One group will carry the information so far, and then they'll pass the baton to the next group, and the next group, and the next group. And the groups that came before did all that they could, even though they couldn't see the finish line. Sometimes we're in our life like that too, because the evolution of mankind and the earth is just like the evolution that you're going through as an individual. Sometimes you don't see where the finish line is, and you say, how far do I have to go? How long is this going to go on? Maybe those are the best questions to ask, because to receive those answers, you have to prepare yourself. Most of us are like, and this is a very interesting thing, because the sun represents the spiritual part of us, yes? And the sun is in Cancer. And Cancer is saying, this is personal. This is what I like, this is what I'm going to do, this is me. This is how I feel. And our feelings put us in a place that we always want to feel good. What does it take to feel good? Long time ago, let's go back in history a little bit. There's this place called Babylon. Holy city. People there were really tight. They knew a lot of stuff. They just knew stuff. They didn't have to think about it. They just knew stuff. And the word Babylon comes from Babel. And it means the gate of God. So all these people always lived in that gate of awareness. They knew who they were as their God selves. So from 2250 BC until about 539, the night that Babylon fell, a whole lot of things happened. Back in those times, we had kings and rulers and priests, what we call priest kings, and they showed the people what to do, how to do, all that stuff. We didn't have to think about anything. In our growth in listening to them, the Spirit was preparing for the days that we live in today. The night that Babylon fell, it was like we all stood at that gate and waved goodbye to the Spirit. See you later. The Spirit waved back, say, it's all you now. We're not responsible for taking care of you. You have to do those things. We planted the seeds, giving you the way to go. What is a seed? We can look at the seed like a word. But in the seed state, it's mute. It's not saying a thing. People of Babylon didn't talk anyway. They belonged to a language that one of our illustrious students pointed out to me was called the crystal language. What about speaking? You just knew everything all the time. But when Babylon fell, people got spread all over the place and the language changed. And nobody understood anybody else anymore. So everybody went their separate ways according to whatever those feelings that we're talking about. Now everybody has feelings, and feelings make you pretty sensitive to whatever the environment is. And so the first thing that we became aware of when we fell out of the Spirit, we had to survive. We realized there was a difference between us and the environment. We weren't one with it anymore. So everybody's worrying about survival. What do we have to do? What's going to make me secure? And so we learned to do some things, and we learned not to do other things. In that learning, that's how our biases got formed. This doesn't feel so good, this feels a lot better. We want to repeat that good feeling. The people that were stronger, they said, well, if we got choices to make to do things, why don't I marshal up my strength and get the people to do what I think is the best thing to do? Because I know better than them. And so it was. Consciousness started getting all these levels. And everybody fell into one conscious level or not. Some people who were very used to following the priest kings, they didn't want to work too much, and so they just listened and did what they were told to do. Back to the feelings now. When you get hit in a place and it hurts, you start saying, I don't want to go to that place. I never feel it. And the more you go, the less you go to that place, the harder that place becomes. And your feelings become hard, so you don't feel things anymore. But things are still felt. Now there's a subtle difference between that, and just like the words that we've learned, since we no longer have the crystal language, we only have these words and symbols. And everybody knows a symbol means one thing to one person, something else to another person. How do you understand what's really being said? You have the understanding underneath all of that. But it's been a long time since you've been using it. You've been giving attributes. Your feelings is one of them. But you made those hard. You said, I don't want to feel that bad anymore. When your feelings became hard, you became numb. Then it's easy to do stuff to other people. Neighbors or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You can't feel it anyway. That's their responsibility. Asking you to hold information of the big symbol that we're talking about, the moon is in Capricorn. Capricorn sees what needs to be done and says, let's do it. I don't care about anybody's feelings. This is something that needs to be done according to whoever this person is. In this case, the person is you. Now, on the other side of that, we have to remember we live in duality. The symbol is a prima donna singing in an opera. I don't know if you know anything about operas, but the prima donna, she's the centerpiece of everything. And she's got a great voice and she delivers a great message, great story. And she believes the story's all about her, and indeed it is. That's you too. And she's feeling great as long as she's singing. Operas have this thing called intervals. And somebody once said, I wonder, would it be better to have an opera without an interval or to have an interval without an opera? Because the way people live in the day, they're not giving a story anyway. Moving right along, we're asking you to hold all of these symbols in your mind because the pictures are easier for you to see than for me to try to explain it to you, because then you won't understand. When you start getting into definitions like the consciousness of today, we have dictionaries that say this word means this, this, this. But we forget that the word is just a symbol that's pointing in a direction. And it's your responsibility to find out what it is. Now, the greatness of living in these so-called United States, our language makes you do that work. Other languages over in the European continent, over in Asia, over in Africa, they have a word for everything. So you know what somebody's talking about. And nobody's going to say it tongue-in-cheek to you. You won't know they're talking about you like something bad. You know it right away. But in America, well, let's take a good word. Let's take love. Somebody says they love you. What are they talking about? The Greeks learned from the Egyptians that love had several levels to it. There was filial love for your brother and sister. There's eros for your lover. And then they had this thing called agape. Say, who's going there? He said, you love everybody. I said, that's not an easy thing to do. There's some people I don't like. He said, that's okay. This is just what it is, but it's putting in front of you, looking at the symbols and holding on to the pictures, seeing what it's saying to us. Back to our relay race, you're passing the baton. Which leg of the race are you running? When you're running in that race, it's not a good time, and this is something that Capricorn users has a problem with. It's not a good time to criticize your teammates for what they're not doing. They're doing the best that they can. The question is, how do you have time to look at them? Are you doing the best that you can? Because your attention is now not on the race anymore. You're looking at this, whatever. And we know that attention can't be inside or outside because it's everywhere all at the same time. And we're asking you, you're responsible for knowing this. You come to consciousness, and we've talked about this for the last several weeks, through sleep. Sleep is very akin, being asleep is very akin to being in the spirit world, because every night you go there. Where do you think you're going? You don't remember. You might have a fragment of your dream that comes back, but you don't even know what that means. So you were someplace for so many hours and you don't even know what happened. And after you live a few decades, you can multiply those hours times those decades, and all that part of your life is gone. You don't know nothing about it. But you lived through it. Now I'm here to share with you today, you do the same thing while you're awake. You fall asleep, and you don't see a lot of things that are happening. Because your attention that you've learned through your feelings, I only want to pay attention to this, I only want to pay attention to that. And it keeps you from seeing everything that's going on. So when you walk into something, now you're mad, and you want to look for somebody to be mad at, even though you're the one that walked into something. You're still holding on to the pictures just so you can see what's going on. You're the prima donna, remember? You're the star of the show, so you think somebody should have moved that out of the way. So I wouldn't walk into it. What's wrong with that? Somebody's shirking on their job. This person's not doing their part. Every night you go into the spirit world, and there's spiritual intelligence there, and spiritual beings that help you prepare for the next day and review the day that you had before. And the way that we're put together, the only way that we can see, because we haven't developed the organs, the spiritual organs to perceive in the spiritual world, we can't even hear. We're like deaf, dumb, and blind. Wow. But our third body acts like a mirror. And it reflects those things back. Those are the fragments that you see in your dream when you come back to consciousness when you don't know what wakes you up in the morning. Sometimes you have a dream you think it's good, sometimes you think it's a nightmare. Choices, we all make choices. And everything is really based on what you think you know. You make all these concepts and you want to live in a logical world. That's fine. Logic sets up boundaries. Thinking about Saturn again. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, where the moon is positive. It's full moon. Saturn says, according to logic, you can't go outside of these boundaries. So whatever you say, whatever you think, it has to stay within this. And all that's good. You know, people who use epistemology and all of that. You can have a great conversation with them, but they're not in reality. So reality doesn't stay in those lines. If you go and look at your dream and try to figure it out, you see how things just stop on a dime and pick up 10,000 miles someplace else, or you're flying through the air or boring through the ground. You say those things aren't possible, but yet they're happening. That's what you're seeing. That's the best you can make of it with the images that you have created, because you won't go outside the boundary lines. And you're being asked to go outside those boundary lines every day. But it doesn't feel good, and so you got these hard feelings that say, just shut that down. You don't have to deal with it. Something happens in your life, you don't like that, you try to shut that down. After a few decades of shutting stuff down, we got a real backup here. And it comes through the body physical as an illness, sometimes as a chronic one, depending on how much you've been shutting down or trying to shut down because you're not strong enough. That's right. I said because your spirit is involved with you getting to know everything. That's why you came here, because you said you wanted to know everything. You wanted to go do all these things, make restitution, become balanced, yada, yada, yada. So I said, in order to do that, you have to take this step. Okay, I'll do that later. Tomorrow I'll take care of it. Right now, I got an opera I got to sing. I want to hear the applause. I want to feel good. There's nothing wrong with feeling good. Also, along with our feelings, we have that attribute called thinking. Now, thinking is a powerful tool, but it's always related to the past also, just like your feelings are. Whatever you thought about, that's already happened. So it's not going to help you with what's coming, because you don't know what's coming. Remember, you're blind, just like a blind person walking around, they can't see. In the spirit world, you can't see. You're afraid of the environment. That's what your memory is bringing back to you. I'm afraid of the environment. I'm not afraid of the environment. Of course you're not. You tell yourself every day, I can do what I want. And you do. How are you feeling? What are you thinking about? We have a third attribute that we can use. And this is the one that's being brought into play, especially today with us. Everybody knows how to feel, and whether they choose to turn it off or not, it's still there for them. We're learning how to think. Up here, we're endeavoring to put in front of you that it's possible to come out of that dead, reflective thinking and actually live in the moment that's happening right now. But to do that, you have to use your will. You say, what is that? What's will? I haven't seen that one around for a while. I say, that's something that you bring into manifestation. Think about the man Yeshua met at the pool, paralyzed for 38 years. A little bit about the story. When you're 38 years old, that's when you're developing the more refined part of your thinking. But in order to do that, you got to raise your consciousness. Well, this guy's in line every 38 years, and Yeshua comes along and says, pretty interesting specimen here in that. He said, how would you like to be made whole? So what does the guy say to him? He says, there's nobody to put me in the pool. Now this pool's a magical pool, and they say every time the water is troubled, it's the symbol that an angel is coming and bless the waters, and so the first person in the pool gets healed of whatever they got. So this guy is laying by the pool. Now you tell me how much sense this makes. I guess it's logical. 38 years he's been laying there, and he didn't have anybody to put him in. And so I'm thinking, well, what is going to get him in that pool before everybody else? That's just me. The way I think, I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what he was looking at, because that's the answer he gave to Yeshua. Now, Yeshua didn't say anything to him for a moment, gave him time to think about his answer, because he, as you can tell, he didn't answer the question that Yeshua asked him, if he wanted to be made whole. Now, this is a part of the crystal language that we have to remember that we still have today, but we don't use it very much. But I was talking to my sister about this passage, and she said, well, that guy never said anything to Yeshua after that, but Yeshua healed him. I said, are you sure? Are you sure that Yeshua healed him? Because when I go back and read the passage, all it says is that Yeshua told him to rise, take up your bed and walk. And the guy picked up his bed and walked away. So I ask you, I'm hearing another conversation taking place between Yeshua and this man, even though no words were written in the scripture about it. Because if Yeshua, with all that he was bringing to the table, asked you a question, you think he's going to do something before you answer it? Have you ever talked with somebody who you're real close with, and they have answered a question that you had in your head, but you haven't uttered it yet? This is the kind of closeness I'm talking about that we have. This is the crystal language that we have. We don't need words to be one with someone. It exists all the time. So the logical part of that society, they call them Pharisees. And they were pretty smart because they knew all the laws of spirit, and what you were supposed to do and what you weren't supposed to do. And they told us that they saw that guy carrying his bed. They said, you can't do that because it's the Sabbath. You're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. That's the law. That's the logic of the time. This is the logic of us. When we want to put things in some kind of logical order, when we're having a discussion with someone, and the other person that you're talking to, let's just make up an instance in this case that you're talking to someone who is more understanding of the spirit and wisdom than you are. And they say something to you that you don't understand, and now you're going to have a discussion with them and try to challenge them because it doesn't make sense what they're saying. That's the same thing that these people talking to this guy carrying his bed. He ain't got time for it, he's walking. Now the thing is that when Yeshua told this guy to rise, he was telling him to raise his consciousness. He said, because if you don't raise your consciousness, you're going to be there for another 38 years. And once you raise your consciousness, that's what's going to heal you. And when the man did that, that's when he picked up his bed and walked. So the logic of the times comes to Yeshua and says, you can't do stuff like that. He said, I haven't done anything. That guy did it all himself. And if you want to be mad at him, go ahead. It has nothing to do with me. This has all to do with us. Where is your consciousness? Who are you waiting for to come help you? You think somebody's supposed to help you? You're running the leg of the relay race. It's your responsibility to run that leg. You can't get somebody else to run that leg for you. You have to pass the baton at a certain time. You have to know when that time is. Because if you drop it before then, your whole team is out. Because of you. And this is how it is with your life. You're your whole team. You drop the baton, where are you going? You're powerless beside that pool, even though there's all the evidence and powers and forces around that you need to get to where you got to be. You don't want to do the work. I don't know what the work is. Didn't we talk about your hard feelings? Do you have any hard feelings for anybody? In the past? Or right now? Anybody you got hard feelings for? That's what's blocking you from seeing how to solve the problems you got. This full moon that's in existence today, that came yesterday actually, is about asking yourself those hard questions. Remember that you are running this leg of the race. You have the baton. You're going to have to pass it off to somebody else so the rest of us can go on. It's not going to do anything to you right now after you run your leg in the race. But why do you make that your concern? When you do the best that you can't do anything else. That's what's being asked of you every moment. But it's hard to see those things when you're living in the past. When you have taken your attention, which is everywhere, all the time, and you focus it on whatever you think is important, which at this time probably isn't that important because you're not getting done the things that you want to have done. You say, I don't know why this isn't happening. Nobody's helping me. This person didn't do this, and this person didn't do that. What does that have to do with you? It has all to do with you if you make it have something to do with you. Because you are co-creator and you can make anything that you want. So if you build up that obstacle, it's going to be there. Guaranteed. All the time. You're the prima donna. Well, who's going to be clapping for you? When you're sitting by the side of the pool, talking about ain't nobody there to help you. What am I going to do next? For those of you who are aware of it, and for those of you who aren't, I do a little tarot reading on a full moon and this form that I'm giving you today. And the first card that came up was the Emperor. And I took that as being, this is who we are. We're sitting on the throne. We control everything. We make everything. We make every call in our life. Mm-hmm. Every one of them. And as a little aside, if you didn't take the time to avoid having parents, then it's now your responsibility to make sure that they do the things that they need to do. Just look at that. But don't look at it too long, because that's just a sidelight. We're moving right along. Now, crossing this guy sitting on a throne, he's a spiritual being. Because that's what you are. You're all spirit, and you come from spirit. Even the parts that you can see come out of the spirit. And it's crossed with the material things in this world, the environment that came out of the same place that you came from. So there is no separation between that. There is no threatening between that because everything that you see is part of you. Your choice to accept it. I ain't like them. I don't like that. It's okay. It's your choice. It's always your choice. Those are the things in the world that are going to be distractions of who you are sitting on the throne. When you put your attention on things of the world, that's where your attention is going to be. That's where your focus is. Now, in the past, I did a Celtic cross reading. In the past, what's passing away is, what's that? It was a spiritual feeling that we had in the past that made us feel really good. And what crowns us today, even though we're spirit, we're thinking about how great we used to be. You can tie that picture into Babylon that I was talking about. We're sitting at the gate of God. We have everything. We know everything. We are everything. There's nothing standing in our way. And we're thinking about those good old days. Oh, for the good old days, if I could just get back to them. There is no way back to those days. It's impossible to get back to them, especially all the things that the race that we've run so far has taken us through so many thresholds. We couldn't go back to those thresholds if we wanted to. Not like we are today. Now, what's coming up is one of the attributes that we have is called thinking. It's King of Swords. This guy has a powerful mind. He can do anything intellectually that he wants to do. We have this at our disposal, but it's only a first step to addressing the things that we've forgotten. Because all the things that we've forgotten, they're still there. Attention is everywhere. Spirit is everywhere. Consciousness is everywhere. We just don't pay attention to it. And after these so many hundreds of thousands, millions of years, if you will, we've actually become afraid of spiritual reality. Even though we don't feel it. The reason we don't feel it is because we've made our feelings hard. Of course we can't feel it. We're numb to that. We don't know that's going on. And the only time we find out is when you get close to some kind of spiritual event. I mean, a real spiritual event, like spiritual entity comes close to you, to your consciousness, and you feel something that you've never felt before, I can guarantee you the thing that we call fear is going to come up real fast. And you'll have a decision to make at that moment. And if you're like 99% of the other people in this world, you're going to try to shut it down. Because your feelings say, I don't know what this is, but danger, danger, Mr. Robinson. Let's shut this down. Be safe. It's a Capricorn trait. Be secure. What is being secure? It's forgetting who you are. You've forgotten who you are. You don't feel secure in any kind of situation that you're in, no matter what's happening. Even if that situation will take you out of this place that you call this environment, physical place, if you have any kind of apprehension, you have forgotten who you are. Yep. And that's what we all put in front, because now our soul is so attached to a feeling nature. This is, I'm the body. And everybody believes that. They think that. They feel that. Or that's what's felt. They don't feel anything. That's their old feelings and old thinking, combining up and saying, let's just deal with this and leave the rest of it alone. It's too heavy to do. You know, it's interesting, and I like in the Christian Bible when some of those disciples or even people in the Old Testament, when the angel came to them, they usually found themselves flat on their face. When I was younger, I was wondering, what the heck is that about? I said, an angel shows up and you're on your face and don't know it. The angel got to pick you up and say, fear not. That's the first thing they say. So fear is the thing that shows up whether you want to believe it or not. You don't have to get into the languages that we've broken down. Everybody's coming from a different place. If you go to the crystal language, which is your choice and possibility, you'll know that you're afraid of something. And that's what this full moon is trying to remind you. It's putting the pictures in front of you and saying, you're the prima donna. Yeah, you can get the applause. Yeah, you can get paid. But there's some responsibilities that you are supposed to be doing. You're in a relay race. You're not running against anybody else. You're running to do the things that you said that you wanted to do. This is what we all came here for. But we don't think about it much. You know? I want to see this lady. I want to see that guy. I want to watch this event on television. This is important. We got a whole lots of things. You know, sometimes they're important. Not going to take away from them. This is that. But where is it when it stands in line with who you are? When you sacrifice who you are for anything else, what do you have? Nothing. Nothing. What is nothing? Is that spirit? Spirit ain't nothing. Can't see it, can't feel it, can't smell it, can't taste it, can't touch it. It looks like nothing, but it's everything. And it's all around us. And fortunate for us, we've forgotten it. But we be terrified all the time. If you ever had a nightmare and it woke you up, that's the kind of feeling that I'm talking about. You don't know why you're afraid. You don't even know what that dream means. That's right. Because it's usually a good message. It's just put in a way to try to get your attention, say you've been trying to dodge this, hide behind this for a long time. And so YouTube the other day to this girl, she sent it out to the rest of us on Facebook, and she said, is this YouTube true, or is our community trying to hide behind God? And so I put a little reply, and I said, how can you hide behind God? God's invisible. I said, there's nothing there to hide behind, but I said, you don't have to respond, I'm just saying. I said, go with that. But this is how our thinking is. You know, I talked to another ordained minister from a different discipline, one of the Christian denominations, and she was telling me how we got the Christian religion through slavery. I said, that's interesting. I said, what about the people in the continent that got Christianity, but did nobody with them? You know, they chose it on their free will. And she looked at me like, what are you talking about? I said, wow, I didn't know. I said, if you don't know, you don't know. It's okay. But this is where we are in our consciousness level. And this girl, she's an ordained minister. She's got a college degree. Her partner is a social worker with a PhD, working on a doctorate. So they're people that have information. They have been schooled. They've been led to believe certain things. And both of them were us. So I was like, wow. It was interesting now. And they are allegedly coming to my sister to provide service to her. She's in hospice for her illness. And after they left, I said, not disrespecting you or your people, I said, but they come to learn from you. They can't help you at all. They don't know anything. So I said, I'm just putting you on notice. It's your responsibility to teach them, because that's why they're here. I said, they got strong connections because I got the birthdays. And they link up with my sister. I said, no accident that you're all meeting together. I said, and everybody that we meet is bringing us a message. Every single person. Even if you don't get to know the person, you can pass them on the street. If they get your attention, they deliver a message to you that you get it. Because it's your responsibility to get it. They were there all the time and delivered the message. That's right. Did you hear it? Did you feel it? That's what this big supermoon is about. Be aware, because you have the ability and the attention to set your attention to take it all in at the same time. Like the Dr. Kennedy, she was telling me, she said, well, what you're saying is a lot of stuff to do. I said, well, looking at it the way you're looking at it, I guess so. I said, if you took a telescope and then turned it around, things would look like they were very far away. And they would be right across the room. I said, perception is everything, so you have to know what you're looking through to understand. And that just doesn't go with the perception of vision, but it goes with what I was talking about when we started about language. What is a person saying when they say a word to you? They telling you a story. You say, oh, that was a nice story. Did you hear everything that they said? Because a lot of things that were in that story, they didn't say out loud. It's your responsibility to see what was going on, like it was with Yeshua, with that guy that he was talking to. Well, my sister is really steeped in Christian Science, so she knows the Bible backwards and forwards. So I told her when I had a conversation with Yeshua, she said, he didn't say nothing to him. I said, you're looking at the words. I said, what about the story that's going on? Is that not happening? Well, how do you know that? I said, well, if you have to ask that question, there's no use talking to him. I said, I can't convince you of something that you don't want to see. And that's our responsibility, our choice again. If something makes us feel uncomfortable, the first place that we usually go is into a defensive mode. If you have to be defensive against anything, you already know that you're out of alignment. You don't have to ask nobody else nothing. You're being defensive, so something is out of alignment with you that you don't want to look at. That's right. And if you don't want to look at it, nobody can make you. That's right. Because you do everything in your time. That's right. We have to be aware of a lot of things. You know, I've become aware of a lot of things with my sister. I wanted to tell her stuff because I thought I knew what you're doing is not helpful to you. And in the objective world, which doesn't exist, and I hoodwinked myself into believing that it did, I thought it was important. But I was aware enough, I could see the tension between us, and I said, don't say that. Don't say that. Weeks go by, she comes to the same conclusion that I was going to tell her. I didn't have to say anything. Amen. And that's how spirit works. When I relax and let the thing happen like it needs to happen, the spirit got it already. And that's who I am. I don't have to be worried about anything. Why am I concerned? Why does she have to learn this second? Because I know it. Well, I think I know it. That's right. When the person's ready, they'll get it. If they check out before that, they'll still get it. Because it's not about being here. This is a distraction. This is something that we need to deal with while we're here. But we still going to be dealing. You're still in the race, whether they see you or not. Every day and all the time. Now the ruler of this full moon is Saturn. Saturn is a tough taskmaster. In the chart, it takes about 29 and a half years, 30 years to go around the whole chart. It experiences everything in your chart. So when you're 29 years old, you've experienced at least for one time everything that's ever going to happen in your life. Anything that happens after that is just going to be a variation of things that you've already been through. Now, according to how hard that you made your feelings, that's going to dictate how the events show up after 30. You know, if you kept on saying, well, I don't want to do that, not now, not today, leave that alone, no, that doesn't feel good, that's not important. Then you have some really heavy things to deal with as you get older. If you live old enough to be 60, 58, 59, 60, that's when Saturn has a second return. That's when a lot of people really get seriously chronically ill because they're facing the stuff that they didn't want to deal with. And they're really afraid now. They don't know what to do, so they run to the doctor. They're like a little paralyzed man. Somebody needs to help me, give me something. They don't want to raise their consciousness. You know, when I went to the hospital once to see my sister, and the lady that was in there, the nurse came in and said, I need you to use the restroom. The lady said she didn't want to get up. He said, bring me a pan. She wouldn't even get out of bed. She wasn't going to do nothing. I don't know why. She has reasons, I'm sure, that she wasn't going to do the thing that you do anyway. That's all. And she wasn't a small person. So the nurse's aide had to go get some help just to move that lady so she could eliminate the poisonous in her body. And I say, this is where we are. She's one of us too. This is where our consciousness is subject to. Now, we're supposed to be a nation of priests. The priests that we are, not like the ones that we see out here in the congregation today. We're a new kind of a priest. And the first person that we have to be a priest to is ourselves. We have a lot of work to do on ourselves before we even start thinking about saying anything to anybody. Because if we haven't experienced it, what are you going to talk about? If what you talk about to other people is just what you've read about, even though you've done a lot of good research, there's a whole lot of research that falls within that world of epistemology and logic and stuff. It's fine and good, but it's not real. And until you experience what the reality is, what's the value of what you're saying? Maybe that's why people won't listen to you, because they don't feel that you ain't talking nothing but air. They said, hey, show them. They ask you to show you. You ain't got nothing to show them. You have nothing to talk about after they start asking some hard questions. That's right. I said, whoa. So this is the priests and priestesses that we are today. And we, if you're sitting in here now, you're one of us. And it's your responsibility. This full moon is shining on you and saying, I want you to go out in the world and make a difference. So we're running a relay race and we have fallen pretty far behind. But people have been dropping the contact. They've been putting them down on purpose. They said, I don't feel like running right now. I said, is that? I don't think that's in the process, is it? Well, it is now. He said, I can create anything. That's right. I said, all right, then. If it makes you feel good, here we go. You are a prima donna. I'm not taking away from that. The Cancer part of you is very sensitive. It picks up on everything that happens. Everything that ever happened in your life, everything that's ever happened in all of your lifetimes is recorded in you today. Now, to get back to it, you have to do a little bit of work. That's right. And in doing the work, you have to be aware that there are limitations placed on the body physically. It's like if we had a child that's 8 years old, it would be a perfect candidate for initiative to look at the first 7 years of his life. But since children are already there, they don't have to go through that. If you want to know what happened in the first 14 years of your life, you need to be past that age to look back and see it. If you're talking to somebody else that you know is a part of you because they're in your environment and you're having a conversation with, like I'm having with you now, you know that we're one, but because I'm probably older than most of you in here, some of the things that I can talk about, if you really wanted to experience them, You're going to have to get a little bit older before you can get back to understand the things that I'm saying. Because you are right now grappling with the things that you're doing right now. That's going to become one of those distractions that I was telling you about that was in the tarot reading. It doesn't always have to be material. It can be a spiritual thing that's distracting you. You have a spiritual gift and you can do this. Fine, that's good. But what needs to be done right now? What are you being asked to do right now that now you're looking to do this spiritual thing to impress yourself or somebody else, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just not the thing that's being called for right now. And the only way you can hear that is you have to listen. You're sensitive enough to listen, but you have to make a choice. Like Yeshua was talking to the person. Yeshua was this person's higher consciousness. Showing up. Guy waited 38 years. He was worth the wait though. But he listened. Healing happened right on the spot. We can be healed right on the spot of whatever we think that we're blocked by, whatever obstacle that's in our way, whatever thing that we're struggling with. I can't do this by myself. I said, ain't nobody else here. What are you talking about? You have to take it to the limit. All the time. If you're looking and you don't see it, don't stop looking because you haven't seen anything that's there. There's something that you missed out of. Something else coming along the other day, my alarm won't cut off. I said, wow, what's that? Well, again, I said, out of gas, not a problem. Put gas in it, try to start it, won't start. I'm pulling, won't start. I'm looking at this, I said, there's something simple I'm missing. I don't know what it is. And then I remember having a conversation with Rita. I said, I do know what it is. That's right. And then I noticed that the choke was stuck. And so I pushed it forward, pulled it, boom, started right up. Did the whole backyard, came out to the front yard, had to turn the armor off, get up to the front, tried to start the machine. Same situation. I can't start it. I look at the choke. It looks like it's in the right order. I pulled, nothing happened. I said, this is not happening. I said, what's going on? And this is spirit telling me, I believe, that you're not looking at what's happening. You think that you already know stuff. You think you understand everything just because you went through it one time. You've been through this twice and it's hasn't been a half hour yet. I got already. And this is where all of us are. When it comes to spirit, we think, yeah, we learn that in the class. We talk about that in the forum. That guy said this and said that, and I got it, and I'm good to go. Are you? Even after you've had the experience. This is what this full moon is saying. Remember, you're in a race, you're running a leg. You're fully responsible for running this leg. No matter how badly the people ran before you or the ones that go on after you, it's not your concern. Focus on what you have to do. You're the prima donna. You got it all. You're the emperor sitting on the throne. You have all the power. If you've forgotten, you can look at this one other thing, and then I'm going to shut it down from looking at the Roman Empire. When they started kicking back with power, and they made up this story about Christianity. And they made it work. And you can make anything work. It doesn't have to be good or bad, it's just a thing to be done. That's right. The fact that it isn't true, people around have to discern that, and to the extent they don't, they're going to suffer. Mm-hmm. You always suffer when you don't understand what's going on. Right. This Roman Empire, before it became an empire, it was a republic. Mm-hmm. And they had some good people in it at that time. They had some good thinkers that learned from the Greeks before then. The Greeks learned all they knew from us over in Egypt. And so they have all this information that's passed down, and in truth, because of this relay race that's been run, a lot of the information came from Atlantis. And Atlantis was the golden age, where everybody had everything. Weren't slaves and masters, everybody wore the same stuff, everybody was happy. Everybody was living in luxury. But as evolution took place and everybody got split up and separated, and everybody started, I gotta survive, I'm important, more important than that person. This person's my slave. You know how the story goes. All of this happened, And the Romans said, well, in order to survive, we have to do these things. And we have to be on top. That's their job, that's what they did. That was the way of the race that was being run then. We always have a choice to use the positive side or the receptive side. And you have to be aware enough, attentive enough to know when and where that needs to be done. Otherwise, you're going to turn into a republic. When they grew into the empire, they were so big, every time they saw someplace, they said, that belongs to us. You know, even before they got there. They went up in England, took over England, then they tried to do the same thing in Scotland. Those people gave them a little bit of resistance because I believe it was us up there. And they got their foot in the door, but then before they could conquer them, they had trouble back home. So they had to go back to Italy and take care of business back there. But it just goes to show that consciousness, when it gets focused on doing certain things, because those people were allegedly the barbarians on the coast, but they turned back the biggest empire in the world and kept it from coming on their land. And this is a reminder to us that it's not about controlling the environment. It's about just knowing who you are. If there's a foreign presence, what is the foreign presence? Because you have created it for some purpose. And if it's to strengthen you, so be it. But don't be laying by the pool for 38 years waiting for somebody to come help you. Ashe, thank you for listening.
Okay, we're going to do some music first, so just put yourself in a relaxed state.
Do you remember the time when we were one with the sun and all the joy that we had? 'Cause in our heart you won. When we focused on us and we enjoyed this dream in and out in our way, saturated auspiciously. Some people go down, we are preparing to be with you again. Star people come down, we are preparing to be with you again. We've been missing the point of who we are and why we came. And now this reality deceives us. We get caught and lose our aim. We get in the way of ourselves, and we dismiss the call. We get in the way of ourselves, and we make it so hard. Star people come down, we are preparing to be with you again. Star people come down, we are preparing to be with you you again. So as we sit around and contemplate with the thoughts of the way it be, and as we swing back and forth, one day we will awake from this dream and see that you are here as you have always been, guiding from a very symmetry. And as promised through our evolution, one day we'll be free. Star people come down, we are preparing to be with you again. Star people come down, we are preparing to be with you again. Star people come down, we are preparing to be with you again. Star people come down, we are preparing to be with you again.
Remaining in a soft meditative space, making sure that your feet are flat on the ground, the spines are straight, your head is leveled. And don't forget to breathe. Breathing in through your nose and exhaling. Let the sound reverberate within your being. Peace, still. Know now that you breathe out the vibration of the moon and the fullness thereof. And let us vibrate free of the sacred homes. The first one will be to quiet the physical body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. Peace be still. Let the energy vibrate from the root chakra. Feel that chakra being vitalized.